Welcome back to my channel and happy Hanukkah. It's the first morning of Hanukkah and I'm still in my Hanukkah jammies that are very comfortable. I'm loving them. I wanted to just give you guys for this week's video some updates on what's happening with my books and with my writing career, because there have been some big changes lately. So the biggest one, which you may have seen if you follow me on Twitter, is that I have a new agent. I'm still with the DeForio agency, but my new agent is Mariah Nichols. My previous agent, the first agent I signed with, Kirsten Wolf, was like a wonderful partner to me in getting my YA science fiction dystopia Sand and Swarm ready for publication. So she signed me last October and gave me some incredible, just the most amazing edits on the book. And I'll forever be so grateful to her for all that I learned from going through that revision process with her. And we actually did 2 rounds of revisions over the past year, but unfortunately Kirsten's mother has been battling cancer and just taking care of her on top of that. And she goes to grad school and she works full time, because being a literary agent isn't really a well-paying gig when you're starting out. Unfortunately, Kirsten felt like she had to step away from agenting. And something that I'm so grateful for is that the DeForio agency has a policy of like not letting authors go when one agent leaves, because there is a lot of turnover in the business. And unfortunately, I have writer friends who've been in the position of having an agent quit and then being back to square one in terms of querying. So I would definitely recommend the DeForio agency to anybody who's querying, because they do make that commitment that if something happens and your agent leaves, like, you will sign with another agent at the firm. So from there, it was just a question of like finding the right fit for me and Sand and Swarm with one of the agents at DeForio. And I'm really excited to have signed with Mariah Nichols. Something that's cool about Mariah, I think, is like she's a business major rather than an English major, which is like most agents out there like have a background in English. I'm kind of really excited that Mariah seems to have a lot of business savvy, because the whole point of an agent is that they're going to sell your book. Something I was nervous about the last couple of months while I was kind of waiting to hear like who's my new agent going to be is, are they going to want me to make a ton of big structural changes to the book? And you know, I made a ton of revisions with Kirsten. Like, am I going to have to like rewrite the whole thing again? But luckily Mariah like loved the book as is really excited about it, and feels like we're ready to go on sub in January. So that's the second big piece of news, is my book is finally going on sub. For those of you who don't know, going on sub is the time period when your agent is actually trying to sell your book to publishing companies. So, you know, there's no guarantee that it will sell. A lot of books that go on sub never do. But I am hopeful, and Mariah is very optimistic about our chances, and hopefully there's an editor out there who's looking for a darkly funny YA/new adult climate fiction dystopia that is really speaking to a lot of the issues of our time. So that's what Sand and Swarm's about, and that's what we're going on sub with. It's been such a long road to get here. So if any of y'all are writers, like, don't get discouraged. I got the idea for Sand and Swarm in 2013. I actually was recently like purging a bunch of stuff in the house and found my old journals from 2013 when I was like first sketching out the ideas of the book. I started writing it then and got about 20,000 words in, and then my work got just too hectic and I put it down. I wasn't able to finish it. I didn't come back to it until 2017. After my daughter was born, I became disabled. The school district I worked for was really shitty about that and kind of pushed me out of my job. And so I was like, I guess I'll write that book I always wanted to. And I wrote my book between 2017 and 2018. I finished it in 2018. Then I did like a big rewrite on my own because it was my first time writing a book. And I read Saves the Cat after I'd written it. And then I was like, oh, there are some saggy plot points that I need to fix. Then I went querying it, and it took me a year of querying, which I have another video about that I'll link to, why I think it's sometimes good to query 100 agents. And I finally ended up getting an offer. I didn't end up signing with the agent who offered me, but I signed with Kirsten at Deforio. And then Kirsten, that was last October when I finally signed my book. And now it's been a year. The whole process of revisions and everything was slowed down by the pandemic. And then of course a family crisis in the life of my agent, and then switching agents. And now here, January 2021, we're finally ready to go on sub with my book. And if we're super successful and get a super rush publication date, I mean, the soonest it would ever be published is 2022. So it's a really long road sometimes to get a book published. So just sticking with it and keeping at the work is the most important thing. In terms of my last book, which was just published, my debut novella, Depart Depart, I was really thrilled this week that I was accepted into the Climate Writers Alliance on the basis of that book. So the Climate Writers Alliance is an amazing group of writers who all write fiction dedicated to sort of highlighting the problems of climate change and, wanting to motivate people to address climate change, to understand sort of the science through fiction. That's sort of one of the goals that I have as a climate writer, is to make people feel the sort of urgency of the scientific predictions by making them into stories. There's some amazing other authors in the Climate Writers Alliance. I was really excited to see that my name alphabetically falls right before Eden Lupecki, who wrote California, which I loved. There's also like Cory Doctorow, Rebecca Roanhorse, a whole bunch of amazing writers, a whole bunch of amazing books, and I am just like so thrilled and honored that Depart Depart is considered among them, and that like I have this legitimacy of like, I've been calling myself a climate writer for a while, but like now I'm in the Climate Writers Alliance, so that feels really good. And I'll link to that organization down below. Definitely check out my novella, Depart Depart, if you're interested in climate fiction. Also, if you're interested in stories about Jewish ghosts, which are called Dybbuk's, or if you're interested in trans guys navigating disaster situations, there's a whole lot going on in that novella, so check that out. The last bit of news I have, also kind of on the climate writers legitimacy front, is I'm possibly gonna be in, maybe sharing this too soon, but I've been invited to submit to a textbook of environmental fiction writing, so that felt like a really big honor, and I'm excited to send them a couple pieces, and hopefully they choose one, and if they do, I'll let you know when that's out. So those are kind of the big pieces of news that I have on the writing front, and I'm really excited to go on sub. I don't really know what to expect. I know to expect a lot of anxiety every time I open my inbox, but that's kind of par for the course for being a writer. I know that the first month is really crucial, and if you sell in the first month, that's like really great. And if you don't sell in the first month, then it's much less likely after that. But some people sell their books after 6 months on sub, so it could be a long wait. I'm kind of steeling myself emotionally for that, steeling myself again for like lots of rejection on this 7-year project that I've poured my heart and soul into. But also feeling optimistic and just excited to get the opportunity. When Kirsten told me that she was leaving agenting, obviously that's a really gutting thing to lose your agent, because when you sign with that agent, it's supposed to be this like relationship for life. Some authors and their agents are like besties on Twitter, and they're always tagging each other, and it's really an important relationship in your life, I guess. It feels very intimate because they're helping you work on these projects that are like the nearest and dearest to your heart. They're your cheerleader, they're your editor, they give you the tough news, So it is pretty gutting to lose your agent, but I'm really just so thrilled with Mariah. I think she and I are gonna work really well together. And why was I saying all this? Just that I'm excited for the chance to go on sub. That was really, it'll feel better if it doesn't sell, if Sand and Swarm doesn't sell, at least I got this far. At least I got the chance to go on sub. It really would have been brutal if like I'd lost my agent right before you know, going on sub and then, you know, had to requery and didn't end up getting an agent. And just, if that's kind of where this story ended, that would have been really hard. But at least I get the chance finally to like put my book out there in front of editors of major publishing companies and like see what they think. So that's exciting. Have a happy Hanukkah if you celebrate. If you don't, happy holidays. I'm sure there's some other holidays this time of year that I hope are happy for you. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.